This is code.org, and it's everyone's favorite time, project time! Woohoo! I'm actually excited about this. I'm a teacher, but it's cool. This is really fun. It gives us some freedom. Let's take a look. So what I'm going to be investigating, solving, is as a customer of a streaming music service, Spotbox, really code.org, Spotbox, creative. I mean, it's like Spotta. Oh, can I say a brand name? Anyways, we'll keep going. I want to create a smart playlist based on my music preferences so I can learn about more new artists. This Spotbox class processes and analyzes data about the songs available in its music streaming service. Complete the Spotbox class with instance variables to store the data you want to analyze, a constructor to initialize the variables, methods to analyze the data to find information needed. Now, guys, what I want to keep in mind, we of course have this document that you do want to fill out to plan your project and give yourself a better idea of what you're going to be building. Regardless, in this tutorial, am focusing on the code, so I really do want to look at the rubric, how to get a great grade. Evidence, extensive evidence. We need a 1D array by reading contents of a text file, and then we need to at least create one other array containing values to address a question in this scenario. Now, the array algorithm implements more than one algorithm using a 1D array that answers a question or finds information in this scenario. So let's keep that in mind. Now let's go over here, and I'm going to take these in order first. Instance variables and Spotbox. Oh, it is naked. They ain't giving us nothing. So, with that being said, we need some instance variables. So I'll go private, and then what do we got? Albums, artists, genres. I'm not sure if I'll use all of these, but sure for now. So private albums. And I think those are strings, right? Words, strings, and strings. Okay. So private string, I need to tell it it's an array, albums, and I'll leave that as is. I'm just going to copy this because I'm lazy. Paste, paste, paste. Copy and paste just because I need artists and genres. I don't like that. I'll leave it. I wish they called this like singers, but that's fine. Now we need a constructor. And so, like always, guys, what's a constructor? Well, it has to match exactly the class name, so public, and it doesn't have a return value type, Spotbox. And now, if we need information here, we can add it, but bam. All right, so we want to be, it asks us a constructor to initialize the instance variables. So, I'm wondering if I'm going to use genres. Or if I'm going to use artists, I'll leave it. I won't get, we'll leave it standard here. So I'm going to do string, and then this is an array, and I'll do albums. And now this is going to break everything because all of these are arrays. Bam. All right, this is looking good. And now I'm going to assign these values. So keep in mind, guys, when I use the word album in this method, or albums now, it only ever can reference this. Because this argument, or this parameter's name, albums, is the locally defined, will be locally defined. And so it will take precedent over albums variable way up here. Even though this variable is accessible through the whole class, it doesn't matter. We have a local one. So when I say albums, it's going to look at whatever this thing is. So I want to give the whole class's variable albums a value. To do that, though, I have to type this albums equals. And this means this class. And that lets the computer know, hey, I am referencing the thing up here. Take this local variable, whatever's passed, and give it to the thing up there. Now, you can avoid having to do this if I do new albums, although they want you to understand what I'm saying right now. And that's because if I do it this way, I can just write albums because there's no other item that could possibly be albums. It will automatically reference that. But I'll stick with this. All right, so there we go. That's our constructor. We got these assigned. And now, write your method to find information needed for your data. So there's a whole bunch of things we can do with artist names and Genres. I would like, does it tell us anything about this stuff? No. Oh, they have a lot. Oh my goodness, they have a ton. Okay, so one thing that I think could be interesting, I want to know, oh, and they have stuff that's split. I want to know if I put in a word, I'm going to pass it a string, and I want to know how many songs are of that type. Okay? So, yeah. So, what I want is that's my first item. I'm going to go over here and do a. And I could focus it and hard code it, but I'm not going to. So, what I'm going to do here is do a public. And what will this return? It's going to return an integer. Int count genre. Or I could even do get genre count. And now I'm going to pass it a string, which will be the genre. Right? I could also call this search term. Here, search genre. And then bam. All right. So now to be able to search for a particular genre and count it up, I'm going to do int count. And so this will be equal to 0, obviously, when we start. And now I'm going to use an enhanced for loop to loop through all my information. So for, and I'm going to do genre as a string. So string, and I'm going to say, see, I hate repeatedly using the same word. I think it's less clear. Yeah, I'm going to use list here. Album list. It's not a list, albums array. So for, and I could just call this genre. I think this is more clear. Current genre, right? The genre that I'm on, I'm going to do genres and boom. So thus far, we are taking our genres array and we're looping through the whole thing, and each individual one, right, genres, would be rock, rap, or whatever. It's going to be assigned to that briefly, so we can loop through. And then I'm going to go ahead and test this out by doing system.out.println current genre, which will be a lot. It might get overwhelmed. I know I'm going to return count. All right. So that's my start. Let me head over to console and start setting this up though. So right now we don't have anything, right? And I need to first use my file reader. Now, if you're not sure how to use file reader, guys, go back to lesson 10 or earlier lessons. There's a bazillion examples, and it is a bit perplexing, you could say. So they already gave us main, which I guess is nice of them. I'm going to do file reader, and I'm just going to call it my file reader. I could be more specific than this, but that's okay. And now I'm going to do file reader is going to be equal to new file reader, and I'm going to pass it one of our file names. So artists.txt for starters is great. Okay, now with that passed in, I can go ahead and start using this. So what am I going to get is all of the artists, right? So I'll go ahead and do a string and call this, I don't want to name it the same. I think that's confusing. Artist list. You could just call it artist, but I don't like it. It's actually an array, so I might do that. Artist array, and that's going to be equal to what? Well, file reader, and we've seen this before, so I'm kind of breezing through it, but file reader, right? Once we pass it a file name, what happens? It uses set file name, and it's going to instantiate two objects inside of this. One is a scanner object that lets us read the information in a file. The other one is actually an object that represents the file. With that being said, once it does all that fancy stuff, we have access to get int data and, get double data, that's cool. Double is a decimal, right? Is 5.7 is a double in code, and get string data. And what we do here is we provided an amount, so we could say 50, and it would get us the first 50 values and return them as an array. Great, that's what we need. So artist array, and I'm going to set this equal to my file reader dot get. Did I already forget? Get string data. And we don't need to pass it any values here. Yep, Okay, cool. So that's our first one. That's artist. Now, guys, I'm going to just copy and paste to go faster. Copy. Except this. I lied. I don't want this. So I'm not going to create a new file reader each time. I don't think that's necessary. So I'm going to reuse my file reader, and I'm going to pass it a new value if I'm allowed to. Set file, is this public? Yes. So now I can just change the file name and focus it on something else. And to be clear, guys, you could create a different object for each file if you wanted. I don't like it. Yikes. Albums, fine. And then we're going to do album array. I guess I could do artists array, albums array. I'm just going to do it like that. And then... Okay, now we do need to pass it the length. So let's double check here. Oh, wow. 498. Are they all that long? That'd be nice of them. Yeah, so these actually match. I am going to make the assumption that hip hop matches up with artist, although I'm not sure they say that anywhere explicitly, that these indexes match the item at that location in the other text files. Yeah, okay. So they're all 498, so we're good to go there. Okay, so that should be fine thus far. Let's see if I broke something. Always good to debug. Couple typos. Okay, so that doesn't have an error. Awesome. Oh. All right, a few typos. I think we got them. Yeah, program complete. So typo, 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 but we are golden now. So now that we have these arrays, I want to instantiate a spot box object. And I'm just going to do my spot box, new spot box. And then we need to pass it the values. Now, if I look over here at my constructor, I do new albums, then artists, then genres first. So I'll stick with that and do... Oh, that bothers me. I'm going to reorg... Nope. No, that's fine. I'll do album and genre. Okay. All right. So now, once I do that, guys, inside this object, these will be assigned those values. And now we can get going on my genre count. So first, I just want to see this working, which is why I did a print statement. Call my methods. Okay, so I guess these were all the constructors. That's fine. And now I'm going to do my methods down here. So I'll do my... I have to pass this anything right now because I said I would pass it a string. And yeah, let's see. Perfect. So I'm going to stop it because there's like 500 of these, but it's working, right? We're printing them all out. Now, what I want to do is search for something specific. And as this, I believe, states, yep, to compare two strings for equality, you will need to use the equals method instead of the equals operator. Yeah, in Java, it's a weird quirk, but you want to make sure to do this. If you want to get into the details of why we can't use equals equals, it's because it's comparing where the item is being referenced. So more of a memory location instead of a per character basis. If that's super complex, it is. Just trust me, we got to use equals for strings. So what I'm going to do here is if, and then current genre. And notice right here they have a first string and a second string. So if current genre dot equals, and then our search genre. What am I going to have happen? Well, then, if that is the case, I'm going to have count go up by 1. So I could do count is equal to count plus. Or I can be fancy, just do count plus plus. So if we find that genre, I'm going to get rid of this line as well. I'm going to have count go up by 1. And then at the end of all this, I'm going to return how many times we found that genre. So let's test this. I'm going to go over here and do rock. Oh, I need to... Wow, that's a lot. Now, if I wanted to, I wonder if there's any repeat artists in here. Yeah, So I could even use this on something like the Beatles. That's not what mine's going to do, but you could do a similar method for artists, for instance. Okay, that's cool. What else can we do? We got genre, we got... what if I do a check? Do you have? So, yeah. What if I type in the name of our artist and I want to know if that exists? I'm going to go ahead and do that then. Boom. And so for this, it's going to be somewhat similar to what we've done before, but I'm going to call this one is artist available, where they type in a string and I say search artist. So again, somewhat similar. And bam. Now, what we're going to do, guys, honestly, we're going to do much like this, except no count. So I'm actually going to copy this real quick and paste. And I don't need a count. I need a Boolean, and I'll call this found and set it equal to false. And then I'm going to, in here, if the search artist is... now I'm not going to go through genres. I'm going to go through our artists. And I'm going to say current artist. If our current artist is equal to our search artist, I can go ahead and set this to true. Found would be equal to true. And now I can return found. And I showed this before. I'm not sure how advanced we're going to get with this, but we could always do two return statements, and I could return right from here because I know at this point that that artist is equal to the other artist. And now when I return from here, we stop looping through the data, which kind of helps us. It helps in the sense that we don't keep going through a loop and using computer resources. And then if I exit the loop, I can do false. However, I'll stick with this. We're more familiar with this process. Now let me try that out. Let me add though, rock. And now I'm going to say any Beatles. Any albums from the Beatles. Now, this will be my search term, the Beatles, and I have to do it just like that because that's how it's listed here. Oh. Need to run that guy. True. Cool. Let me look back at this criteria. Creates a 1D array by reading, creates a new 1D array containing values to address a question in the scenario. So we haven't met that yet. Implements more than one algorithm using a 1D array that answers questions. Yep, we did that. Okay, so we need to create a new 1D array that answers questions. There's a few ways to do this. I can mush these together, but what I'm going to do is I'll say, so we did what, artists? So I'm going to make the assumption, like I already stated, that the artist index and the album index are at the same point. So that means if the artist won, or if this album, Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts, the artist should be the Beatles, which is correct. So the next method I'm going to do that will enable us, or will create a new array, is I'm going to let them search for all albums from a particular artist. So let me head over here, and it's once again going to be somewhat... It's going to be somewhat similar to this, although it's going to need a loop. Okay, so I'm going to do public, and then this is going to be an array of strings. String, blah, 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 is going to be returned. And then I'm going to say get albums by artist. And then the parameter here is going to be the same, honestly. Search artist. Oh, wow. How did I spell it like that? That's a disaster. Okay. Boom. All right. And now what am I going to do? I need to first create this array. So string. It's not going to be an array. It's just going to be a string because we don't know the length. So I'm going to do string found albums. And this is just going to be empty string for now. And now I need to loop through. So at this point, I do not want to do an enhanced loop because I want to use the index of the artist to grab information from my albums array. Let me show you. For, and then let's say int index is going to be equal to 0 at first. And now I want index to always be less than the length of the artist array, but they're all the same, so it doesn't really matter. Artists.length. And then I'm going to say index is equal to index plus 1, or that's the fancy way of saying, or the fancy way to do that, again, is this, index plus plus. Okay, so now we're going to start at 0. We're going to go through the entire array. Now, what I want is to know if we have found that artist. Well, I did that right up here, right? So if, except this time, I'm going to say search artist. And it would work either way, by the way. I could flip search artist and current artist. If search artist dot equals, what's it going to be equal to? Well, now we're using index. So I need to do artists index to grab the correct value. So if the search artist is equal to the artist at whatever index 0 for instance, which if I'm searching for the Beatles, by the way, index 0 is the Beatles. So yeah, that would be true. Now, if this is true, it must run the code inside. So if it must run the code inside, what do I want? I'm going to say found albums is going to be equal to what found albums used to be equal to, right? Plus, and it's a string, so we can just push words onto this, plus albums and at index. Now, why albums at index? Well, again, I'm assuming if artist 0, right, index of 0 is the Beatles. If artist at index 0 is the Beatles, I'm assuming albums at index 0, or line 1, index 0 is the Beatles song or album. So I'm going to say that. So now that I found the artist at index 0 over here in my array of albums, I'm going to go ahead and smash that on the end of my string. Now, I'm going to do it like this, though. Plus equals is the shorthand. And then how do I want to separate these? I could do a comma. The thing that I hate about a comma, though, is that it will leave me with a comma at the end. So I might just do new line, character. And then after all of this, after it loops through and every time it finds that, I'm going to return found. Oh, this isn't an array, though. Oh, but it's still cool. Let's test this, and then I need to make sure to make a new array. Oh, I never switched this back to albums. Cool, so that works, great. All right, we need to create a new array. So I need to be able to create a new array. What I'm going to do is create an array of artists with their albums. And so to do that, I'm just going to call this combo. I could think of a better name, but I'm not going to. And then the length we know is 498. But if I want to be cautious, I could do of that array. All right. Now I need to loop through all of the data. I'm going to steal this for loop right here and just paste it. And now what I want is, now that I'm looping through all of this, I have combo. So I'm going to have combo at index I be set equal to, now what is it going to equal to? It's going to be equal to artists I plus, I'm just creating a string here, bloom bloom, that plus albums I. And then after I do that, right, so each index of combo I will have the artist and the album at index I. Oh, index, not I. And so if I start with 0, that'd be great, because then it will say Beatles, and then it will say this, and then for, index 4, which is line 5, it will say Beatles and Rubber Soul, so on and so forth. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to return this entire big thing, combo. Really, I should say artists with albums. I'm not going to. Let's see if this already triggered an error. Nope, that looks good so far. Okay, now with this, let's go ahead. I'm going to do one more, and that's just going to be to print out an array. So, no, I'm not going to do that here, but here. So now I'm going to do, and now I'm going to call this combo. I really should name this artist with albums, but whatever. And then I'm going to do for string current. and combo. Oh, fine, I'll call it artist. Print them all. All right, let's check it out. This, my friends, is a lot of code. Really neat. You have a lot of functionality. Maybe I should space this out for readability that you can do with this. So make sure to have fun, right? We're going to learn, hopefully, a lot, but make sure to have fun with this. Create something cool. Create something your teacher will like. Create something cool. Create something a teacher would like to grade. Anyways, onward.